Okay, guys, we are officially back in the normal studio. No, I didn't have time to. Wow, look at that. That one's it's going for a ride. All right, I didn't have time to actually get everything perfectly set up like I normally do. So what we're going to be doing is going into basically the amazing things that are happening in politics right now when it comes to Social Security benefits, and they're really exciting because Nikki Haley, as you know, is getting a lot of crap for basically having billionaires and heavy hitter millionaires, 500 million plusers, subscribe to her being awesome, donate to her particular campaign as a result of essentially her saying some somewhat anti-Social Security comments. So the Republican side is they're facing some dilemmas with this, but I want to go through essentially real quick, not so much the Nikki Haley situation or the particular billionaires, but I wanted to explain the logical assessment that occurs pertaining to this whole situation with why billionaires are not hugely, they're not loving Social Security benefits. Now, guys, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe. Let's get right into the video. Okay, so billionaires will work until the day they literally die. It's not one of those situations where they're going to go ahead and stop when they hit that retirement age, because there's no point to. When you have that much money, you are consistently always watching the money, making sure your money is doing work for you, continuously going forward and pushing the envelope to have more money. Now, money requires that upkeep. And even if you hire people to handle your investments for you, it's one of those things where you've got to actually manage those people. So the idea of one day sitting back and not working is counter to their life choices, right? So when the SSA stands for a program that allows you to stop working one day and you have a monthly check and health insurance backing you, the billionaires see this as a waste of life, a waste of accomplishments to potentially be, and not a fair trade for how much people get versus how much they have worked overall, right? So that's like the general overview as to why billionaires are not a huge fan of Social Security benefits. Billionaires are not great at understanding the lifestyle problems or the lifestyle situation of those who are blue collar workers. Their knees are worn out, their hips are worn out, their hands are worn out, etc. Back, huge issue there. Now, billionaires could invest their FICA taxes, right, that they paid in, which is a larger amount than pretty much everybody else, into other things, right? Because they're always paying the max amount of FICA taxes into the Social Security system. Now, with that said, they could basically take that money that they put into FICA taxes because they have that knowledge base, that understanding of how this system works, and they could basically put it into, other investments and get 100 times what they actually paid into the FICA taxes for their retirement benefits when they receive them. So to them, it's just like, why would I put money into that? Because I could do much better in any other field and, do all these other things. So they know how to invest, and they know that the government is extremely incapable of investing America's money to achieve a higher ROI, return on investment, right? So allowing the government to basically manage something is counter to their usual life choices. So when the Social Security Administration takes 95,000 people to distribute the benefits properly, the retirement trust fund is going to run out and people will only get around 75% of their check, 75% of the check in around the next 9 to 10 years of their retirement funds. The billionaires look at this and they think, wow, it takes 95,000 people to properly run the Social Security Administration, which is only running at around 60 to 65,000 people right now, which is why the phone wait times are terrible. The wait times to be found disabled are horrible, etc. Because to be fair, there is no for-profit company out there that could potentially go ahead and operate like this and still survive. Let me explain why, okay? Even if the SSA made money by putting advertising companies on their letterhead or doing things that showed, the potential for profit, they would need a large amount of potential companies that could profit by advertising through them to really even break even in what they need to do and achieve, which is what it really comes down to, is that Congress, bottom line, needs to find more money for them. It's the same dilemma that NASA runs into. NASA, they're like, why don't you put people's stickers on the spacecraft? That when it takes off, you see the stickers, you get more money. And they've basically come back and said, well, to be fair, to be very, very fair about this, they would need significantly more money than any of those advertising stickers would ever get them. But remember, that's a government's viewpoint. That's how the government brain works. Instead of it's, one of these like, well, why don't we try and get more money, try and make it happen? It's one of those like, it's not even close. We're not going to try. And that's the difference between, a for-profit mentality and a non-profit mentality. Now, billionaires live in bubble lifestyles. There's always something being handled for them, and some professional who will iron out the details on what needs to actually be done. As a result of this, if they need someone to laugh at their jokes or someone to handle a loose end, it will get done without them getting directly involved. As a result of this, the grounding effect, where someone states that, something grounds them or brings them back to earth, right, is not at present in their environment, right? So, these billionaires, they're just not well grounded. They constantly lose touch with reality. They lose touch with who people are, what people go through, etc. So when they make extreme comments like retirement should be abolished or that people shouldn't be allowed to have children unless the family's total household income is over $100,000, they are saying these things from a non-grounded perspective. They are looking at it from a cost perspective because every person who makes a smaller amount and has a child or multiple children ends up in some way, manner, or form costing them more money. And what do I mean by that? Basically, they have to pay taxes, and then people always push the rich and wealthy to pay more taxes. And obviously, the wealthy pay significantly more taxes on their income, not their investment, but on their income than other people because the system's built that way, right? If somebody doesn't make much, they pay hardly any taxes, if any, right? And then if somebody makes a lot, they pay, over 40% of taxes of that income. So they're looking at it from this cost perspective, and they don't want to pay more for society's bills because they already pay a significant amount of them through their earned and sometimes their invested income / gains when they actually go ahead and sell them. So considering that billionaires mostly live in places where it's such a large area or such a gated area that normal laws, while still applicable, don't really get applied to them because there's just no police around, unless somebody calls them to come in and actually interact with them. So if the billionaires, have a situation and their security guards can actually fix it and the police have to be called, that's a rarity. Realistically, only when something goes incredibly wrong does essentially, someone go ahead and get the police involved. So next thing, with that said, billionaires are also significantly more aware of how money works and what it can afford and how it can make their life easier than the average or even educated person. If you need medical treatment where, it's illegal to administer it in this country, they have the funds to go to some other country, to fly there, make a donation to the hospital, and then have the best medical treatment the hospital can supply to them. If you want to open up a production plant for some raw material, the local government needs a new developed area with a school, a park, things like that, then they build those functions into essentially that area so that they can go ahead and get whatever permits they need to set up that industrial or commercial, company to make the money. So billionaires understand how money works on our Walmart trades US food for money level, but they also understand, the lives and how we can potentially live longer if we have more money and create big and unable to be repeated businesses, right? That's the big thing, is create competition and take over an industry or create an industry that other people can't get into so that they are the unique ones that hold the keys to that money-making machine. Now, this advantage helps them create wins that are unlikely to be mirrored by people with less money. Business is all about advantages and location. And the more money you have, the more advantages and hotspot locations you are likely to be in. When billionaires look at the retired, they see a lot of useful work product in those people left to be utilized, right? So in other words, money left on the table that could still be used. So to them, taking a break from work is like throwing out your advantages and location, within the work environment. Now, as a result of that, the billionaires, they don't think about the worn out body, blue collar workers who can't keep going. And to be fair, billionaires expect a lot of people to complete things at the efficiency level that they do in a daily activity. A lot of people hate on the billionaires, and I understand it, and I catch myself doing it. But the reality is that they are the closest thing that we have to humans with superhuman like features and talents and ideas and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, when I started to think about, all right, what are the biases I have against the billionaires? And are these biases truly founded? And most of them were, right? And my like, hey, I don't like these people, or hey, this or that. Most of them were founded. But what I started to realize was that some of them were actually unfair. The question becomes, do they love money more than anything else? And they some of them, of course, they love their kids. At the end of the day, many of them act like the general population is against them, which in reality is true. That's true. That's very true. Most people would tie the billionaires to a stick and say, where's the fire? That's the reality of it. We would do that. So to some degree, it makes sense why they would withdraw themselves from a society that largely talks crap about them all the time. So, in understanding that, I want to go through this next piece because I think it's important. People say that billionaires are more self-interested. And I think this is true to some degree, but at the same time, they're always working, even while they are vacationing, which means that their constant work habits equate to them spending more time on their business than perhaps helping others or being aware of others in their space, right? Because, remember, they live in their own bubble, their own space. So when they're working, they don't always realize, like, okay, there's the homeless person there that needs help. There's those people who are disabled who need help. There's those person over there that elderly, they're not getting enough to pay for all the things that they need. They're outside of that bubble. They're outside of that space because they live in these areas where there's just so much wealth, right? So they're just not seeing a lot of the stuff that we always see. So a lot of these billionaires are just really into their work. And as a result of that, people feel that they always care about work more than anything else, which is, of course, something most people just attribute to money. Like when we think about money and work, we think like, okay, work equals this check at the end of the day. That's how we think about it. We think, okay, work equals this much money. That's our mathematical equation for this thing. Whereas when they see it, they're like, okay, this is my life's purpose. I'm going to Mars. I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve that. I'm going to have the first this, the first that. So the bottom line is that work represents something very differently to them. Now, there are, of course, other billionaires who get caught up with competing with other super wealthy people, which makes them focus on the bottom line. The bigger the number, the better, and not the community's health. At the end of the day, the communities across America aren't really their total problem. However, I can definitely see where it would be advantageous for them to financially care more about the communities that aren't doing well. They may sell stuff to people all over, but I doubt they look at this town or that town where they sell some items and say, yes, I must be present. And, yes, I would like to help these people. But, in their heads, they're saying, that's not my problem. That's the government's problem. Government's supposed to fix it. That's why we pay taxes. So, to be fair with them, I can see their brain saying, do I help this town a lot? Should I make a big investment into it? What is the financial return that I'm going to get from it? That's what's going on in their head. They have no attachment to most of these places. I think a lot of people expect them to care about them. But the reality is that they have their own friends and that their friends are their own circle and that the people outside of that circle are either nothing to them or a potential consumer of their products. And, keeping that in mind, the potential consumer of products, if you look at the Social Security recipients, they are mostly not part of that circle. They may be a consumer, but realistically, how many retired or disabled people have lots of, expendable income? And if someone is not a potential consumer, then they mean really nothing to that person because they're not somebody who can buy into their products. Just like how a politician isn't going to respond to you unless you're part of their voting district. Like it ain't going to happen. Now, billionaires are used to creating their own programs, their own companies, their own systems for their people. They create ecosystems because they have that much money. So to them, the social security system is kind of like a bloated, low-yield, poorly designed agency. This is partly because it's failing at its intended overall purpose. And also, it can't evolve fast enough to keep up with all the changes that are required for it to be successful because Congress is so incredibly slow to legislate new changes with it. So billionaires are likely waiting for the program to fail and something new to be born as a result of it. Billionaires are used to the constant innovations to make more money, right? They're constantly innovating. They're constantly pushing the envelope. They're constantly trying to find new ways to make their competitors go out of business. Social Security recipients are absolutely terrified of Social Security innovation because somewhere down the line, it usually means less for them. Whenever they sell us, these politicians on like hey, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Somewhere down the line, we always seem to get less, and that's the problem. Please remember, guys, don't be stingy with those likes. Now, the next thing that I want you to understand is that on these channel comment sections, you will get appreciative people. They're like, cool, I never thought of it that way. You will get haters who think I am sleeping with a billionaire, which, by the way, if you folks know any billionaires that are, females in their 30s or latter 30s who are looking for a millionaire, I'm available. But on a more serious note, billionaires are people just like you or I. If we study them on a more humanistic level, instead of just calling them greedy and evil and resource hoarding people, we might be able to figure out how they can benefit off of the Social Security system so that they'll want to help it. They'll want it to continue. They'll want it to go forward and grow and be better. But still, we should be collectively trying to figure out how big money can be attracted to helping out the trust funds. Look, hear me out. It takes one thought. It takes one thought, usually from one of you guys. It takes one thought to figure out a link that can change the landscape of Social Security benefits. And this is the crazy thing about it. No one, not a single person who started to watch this video would have ever put together getting billionaires to change their thought process towards Social Security benefits so that, okay, they would support Social Security benefits even more. No one would have even considered that because it's against what we are taught by our two-party political system, which is that billionaires are potentially greedy and billionaires are potentially evil, even though those same people vote literally every politician in that we vote for. Think about that for a moment. There's not a single politician who doesn't have an attachment to a multi-millionaire or a billionaire. Think about that. There's not a single one. So with that said, with that idea in mind, okay, just like Mackenzie Scott, who donated just over, basically, what was it? Was it $2 billion? No, hold on, let me see. Let me look it up real quick. What was it? Mackenzie Scott, how much has he donated? Mackenzie Scott, how much donated in 2023? Okay, $2.1 billion in gifts in 2003. 2.1 billion. Just let that sink in. 2.1 billion. Now, there are billionaires, right? Some of which, okay, who have super brains or make super donations, right? You've got those two potential options here. You got the super brain people, and then you've got those who make super donations. And everybody, makes fun of Mackenzie Scott because she basically was the greatest investor in history. She married a person who made all this money and did all the stuff. She helped him here and there. And as a result of that, and she did stuff herself too, to be fair. As a result of that, she got a divorce, and look at all the money she has now. So the point is, she's making super donations that can figure out things, that change lives, that modify things, that can really make this huge collective change in a positive way for the future of those people who need. So my question to you is, what can billionaires do that we can't? Again, what can billionaires do that we can't? That can get our senators and those House reps to stand behind it. Because remember, the people who put them in are the senators, right? The billionaires put in the senators and the House reps, right? So again, what can billionaires do that we can't, that can get the senators and the House reps to stand behind it? It might be too difficult of a question. It might be a question that we have to split up into smaller questions. So how about this? We'll try this one out. How can Social Security, the idea, the program, the benefits, help billionaires achieve more of what they want? Well, I'll tell you one thing. If we get rid of these punishment taxes for people taking early retirement and not being able to work without getting horribly taxed, more and more people will be able to go ahead and go out there and work with early retirement benefits and will want to keep working. But think about it and let me know in the comments section what you think from a new way to look at this, how they can go ahead and get something that makes it positive for them as well. Because remember, if you make it positive for them as well, they're going to make the funding available. They're going to make a push for it, and they're going to push these politicians to support it. Another thing, if you give SSI people the first 4 quarters able to be earned by them don't count against their SSI benefits so that they can work and earn those 4 quarters for those who could potentially work. That means you've got more people who are willing to work to do jobs that these billionaires want to employ them to do. That's another way Social Security benefits can help the billionaires to be more successful by getting these individuals the opportunity to work. Now, of course, it helps the SSI people get off of SSI and get onto SSDI benefits and then retirement benefits. It also helps the trust funds by paying trust fund money into the trust funds because they get 4 quarters of coverage worth of earning that doesn't count against them. It's a win for everybody. I don't know why Congress isn't on top of it. Here's the thing. If we can figure that out, we have a better shot than just saying they're evil and greedy and terrible. And, at the pizza pie, they leave us 1 slice. We know they leave us 1 slice. We know it doesn't at least have 3 slices of pepperoni on it. And how dare them? We know that. But how do we make it so that we want them to have us winning? And we can only do that by having them feel like this change will modify the system to make it better for them. That's the only way we're going to see movement. Guys, I will catch you a little bit later. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe. And keep in mind with this, I get some really nasty, aggressive comments. I'm going to show you one of them real quick. Hold on, let me grab it from the phone. I get these comments on here sometimes. They're just like, whoa, whoa. So here's one. This one came from that last video that I basically did where I talked about things that the disabled wouldn't have or had to give up in 2023. This is what the person said. You are depressing. Why add fuel to the fire? You are not helping us with this negative video. So here's my thing. What is the worst thing that could happen as a comment to be made from a person about Social Security benefits? What is the worst thing? Is it the people who do not do anything? They won't touch Social Security benefits. They're afraid of touching it. Are those people the worst? No, that's most of our senators. That's most of our House reps. Those people are not the worst. The worst people for Social Security benefits are somebody who intends to project a statement that intends to not allow others to see how bad the program actually is. The video is about what are they giving up? What are disabled people giving up in 2023? And they said, this is too depressing. This is horrible. How dare you post this? That is the worst type of human being in the world of Social Security benefits that could possibly exist. Because not only, number one, are they too afraid and ashamed to look at how bad it is? Number two, they're never going to figure out a cure for the problem because they're not able to even look at it. Number three, they're willing to post something on the World Wide Web saying, I want other people to not watch this because it's too terrible for me. I don't want other people to think about it because it's too depressing. That's the worst. Somebody who's literally willing to project, essentially, that these program corners, the most shadowy, shitty parts of what's resulting from these programs that shouldn't be talked about. We have to understand that most people on YouTube click the videos that tell them about false information, about future stimulus benefits, right? Oh, the excitement. Oh, the potential. Because we know that at the end of the day, people tend to choose and like videos that show them this opportunity that things are going to get better, right? People who are oppressed, they live by the idea that essentially somewhere down the line, some prophet, some individual will come forward and fix it. That's not a strong culture. A strong culture is a culture who's able to look at the corners with the worst of the worst, the homeless that cannot even get food and have to basically find some way to get somebody to bring them food. Somebody who lives in the woods who can't even get out of it. Looking at that and understanding and appreciating that and shining a light on that, that's true strength in the industry. But this stuff, you're depressing me, why add fuel to the fire? You are not helping us with this negative video? No, that is literally the worst human being in the existence of all of the entire program. That's it. That's literally it. That's like not being able to say somebody's name because you're too afraid of it. That's like not being able to go in. And that's the thing is, when they posted this, nobody would comment after that because they were ashamed. They were afraid. Oh, is this person trying to harm us? That person equates to evil in the Social Security field. And I had to think about it for a while because I thought, it's just somebody spouting off. It's just somebody showing their butt. It is what it is. But then I sat there and I thought about it and I realized, no, that is the problem. That is more of a problem than the senators because the senators rely on that to keep things hidden so that going forward, the future Social Security benefits won't improve. So to me, that is the bottom. That is the absolute worst. Guys, the next video we're going to be going through is talking about, again, shining light on the difference in how much basically a VA person will essentially get who's disabled versus the standard average individual for Social Security disability benefits. And I've done an analysis on it. I think it's really interesting because at the end of the day, you realize where things are at for those who are veterans, they went to the military, and those who are civilians who never went into the military, or potentially those who are not given a nice release, if you know what I mean, who are then stuck in this category. All right, so I will catch you guys a little bit later. I will see you guys. Let's see. I see some comments here. Okay, cool. So with that said, I will see you at the next video in the next 5 to, I would say, 10 minutes. And then basically we'll go into that. It's a study of essentially the VA versus Social Security benefits. And then after that video, we'll go live and I'll answer questions for people who want to call in and then talk about Social Security disability law and how it works. Catch you soon. And I'll see you in about 5 to 10 minutes and we'll go from there. Thanks so much, everybody. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.